You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
All right, you're listening to Open Mic with Coley Bryce. I am honored and delighted this day of July 8th, 2025. How the heck did we get to 2025? I'm here in the underground lair on Washington Road with Mr. Ray Andersen. Ray Andersen, also known as Mr. Ray. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, buddy. How are you, Coley? Thank you for having me.
I am so honored and delighted to have you here. If you don't mind, I'm just going to try and stumble through a Cliff Notes version of a fraction of your career highlights because they're inspiring and impressive.
Thank you.
And please chime in here at will because we could probably talk an hour about any one of these things you've done. So I guess, which I find very interesting, is that you were... I didn't realize that you were in Cats on a Smooth Surface. That was Bobby Bandiera was in that gig too.
Yeah, that was really my college. I never attended college. I went right from high school, pretty much just a few short years later into the university. The Stone Pony. I mean it, man. I mean, I just I auditioned for them, and Glenn Burtnick was in the room. Bob Bandiera, drummer, the late Peter Gagan, and the great Peter Shuley, and John Miko. And that was it. Me and Glenn, I think, same day, I think we showed up to audition or whatever. And, that was it. And that opened up so many things.
So what was your role in that band?
I was utility guy. I was keyboards and rhythm guitar. I bounced off keyboards with Peter Shuley. He was the main keyboard player, but... I did synth parts and stuff like that, and rhythm guitar and singing too, lead singing, because we had so many lead singers in the band. Yeah. And
Glenn what was he doing in the band?
He was was he playing bass at the time? Oh no. He was playing he was playing guitar too, I believe. And then wait, this is fuzzy for me. Oh, my gosh. Wait. Yeah, no, Glenn joined the same time with me, yeah. So I think, was he bass? Nah, there was another bassist before him.
And Bandiera was in all this too?
Oh, it was his band. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, this was his baby. Oh, my gosh, I can't believe I'm so fuzzy on what Glenn and John Miko did. Forgive me, fellas, if you're listening to this. But
I'm sure they have their own...
Yeah, they were both amazing, though. So that's what it comes down to.
Some really iconic...
Yeah,
I mean, Glenn has had an amazing career.
Truly.
And Bandiera, I think he's probably perhaps the most respected Jersey Shore musician of all time. He's been there and done that on so many levels.
Yeah, no, he was truly a mentor for me, to me, and then we just started jamming with Bruce on Sunday nights because we were the house band, and... oh my gosh, yeah. So it truly was.
So you're a kid, you're playing the Stone Pony.
Yeah.
And then Bruce, who was emerging as the preeminent pop star of the day.
Right.
That had to be a surreal experience for you.
No, you don't get it, man. It was, I have this pantheon. It's the Beatles, Stones, Bowie, The Who, and Bruce, pretty much. And I love a zillion other people, but those are. And I was a Bruce fanatic.
He's a cornerstone of your.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, man. All through this, the '70s when he came up, and '74, '75, and and you know what he used to say. Can I use your guitar? I'm like, let me think about it. No, I didn't say that. It's like, yeah, and the other guy in the band eventually had one of those fancy guitars, not a Fender or a Gibson. I forget what the name was, and he always opted for mine because he liked just the older guard stuff. You know what I mean? And yeah, that was an honor to have him playing my guitars. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then we did duets together, which was I still have video of he and I doing. It was a Glory Days. We were just going back and forth on the microphone. Oh my gosh, I mean it, man. Sometimes people say don't meet your idols, but no, this was the one where he didn't disappoint. Oh my gosh, he just inspired me so much. Yeah.
So, what did that do as far as fueling your future aspirations?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up writing songs. I'm a drummer. Firstly, I grew up playing the drums, and then literally within the first in 1 month or two, it was guitar and keyboards. I just picked. I never had a lesson. I'm just one of these people, just like my idols. You're born with it, and what do you do with it? You just plow ahead. I grew up in West Orange, and all my friends went to day camps and sleepaway. In summers, I was all alone in my basement, just playing my instruments and writing songs.
Putting in the hours.
Yeah, man, all by myself. It was just meant to be.
What was your first guitar?
A Yamaha acoustic FG1.
That's not a bad start.
Not a bad start, right? What are they? FG 175s or something like that?
I don't know, but I know the Yamahas are always a great bang for the buck, and they sound good. They feel decent. I mean, it's
especially 70s ones. Yeah, they were great. Although my friend's dad had a nylon, a Gibson classical guitar. I think that was the first one I ever attempted to play, nylon strung. And to this day, I still don't own a nylon strung guitar. Why?
I do a lot of cover gigs, and I got a nylon cross hybrid. And because this 3 sets.
Wait, what does that mean? Cross high? What do you mean?
Well, they're making them now with a more narrow neck, so it feels more like an electric guitar.
I did not know that.
So you can fucking wail on it, and you're not killing yourself.
I did not know that.
Well, it's worth looking into.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I got one for like $500, and you know how it is. You're doing like a 3-set gig with steel strings, and by that 3rd set, it's like because I when I first started doing this, I was like, no, I'm going to play high quality gauge strings so I get the full sound out of my Taylor. And then like 6 years later, I'm like, yeah, maybe I will use lighter strings. Maybe no one's noticing between their Bud Lights, and maybe I'm. And then I was like, all right. And then I guess there's sometimes in summer you don't like do 2 gigs in a day, and you're like 6 hours of steel strings. You're like, all right. And I was like, why don't I try nylon?
Right.
So I'd put folk nylons on my old Martin because it needed work, and I love the guitar, but I didn't want the tension of the steel strings on it. So I'm like, let's let this baby retire, and it'll just be like a writing coffee hour guitar kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I got on the nylon. I'm like, man, there's just a nuance and texture to the nylon. It kind of classes things up a little bit, and you can kind of get a little
very interesting.
Tex-Mexy in it. And
piqued my interest.
Yeah, it's nice because then with the looper, I can play extended solos and it just creates a nice ambiance, So I don't know.
Yeah, man.
Old dogs, new tricks, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm flabbergasted with the Springsteen stories, and I don't.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to my joy if people could see right now.
Dude, it's like me. It's even myself. I mean, it's like I'm just.
Did that really happen?
Yeah, I know. And look, he played with a lot of folks down in the Shore area, but I was in that house band, and that was just everything.
No. Those shows with cats are part of the lexicon of Jersey Shore mythology and music, and you're part of that history.
Yeah, and there was an amazing lineup before I got in, me and Glenn, and with Joel Krause. I don't know if you know these cats, no pun intended. These guys, and Harry Filkin.
That's smooth.
Yeah, another great set of musicians working together, and so.
Well, it must have been cool when Glenn, hadn't Glenn just gotten out of Beatlemania?
Yes. And I told him later. I think I saw it, and he said, "Yeah, it was probably me on Broadway." I was like, "Wow, that's amazing!" So,
what a cool gig!
Yeah, you think
that had to mess up his head a little bit?
Yeah,
you're playing Paul McCartney, and you now this is back in the late.
Wait, it could have been Mitch Weissman. You know him?
No.
Yeah, another great. Guitarist and singer who played McCartney for a while.
But think about that gig. It's 1978.
Oh, yeah.
You're less than 10 years since the Beatles, or about 10 years since the Beatles broke up.
Oh, yeah.
those teenage girls are now in their 20s and they're coming on Broadway, and you're the surrogate experience for Paul McCartney.
Exactly.
That's going to mess you up.
That's fabulous. Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be fun, but what a high that must be to be on Broadway.
Sure.
So after Cats, on a Smooth Surface, you went after pursuing your own solo and group work as an original songwriter. That was with Blue Van Gogh?
Well, before that, I had a band called Ray Andersen and the Fire, and it was pretty much all original. We would play same places. What a time. I tell young musicians now, I'm not trying to make them feel bad, but oh my God, dude, you remember Monday through every day of the week, there were clubs to play, and you could, of course, mainly covers, but you could still make somewhat of a living, man. And we were in our 20s. And every night of the week, there was a rock club to play, right, in Jersey.
Right. And apartments were cheap in the Shore.
Oh, yeah, man. It was just wild. I moved down there when I was in Cats. I was in Long Branch for maybe 3 or 4 years like that. And, because at that time I was... Where was I living? Can't remember. It's so long ago and so many experiences ago. But, yeah.
So that first... original project, Ray Andersen and the Fire.
Right. I had some great friends in that, like Lee Scott Howard was in that with me. And, man, it was just so much fun. And, and then, and then that disbanded. And then I got married, and me and my ex-wife, we formed Blue Van Gogh. Yeah, that was a tremendous experience. Both of us writing and singing. We toured Germany with Matchbox 20. As their opener for like a month. That was amazing. And just, oh my gosh, we did this one gig. I don't think, it's Wounded Knee, where that disgusting massacre happened with the Indians, and in South Dakota. And we were playing, and on the bill was Chuck freaking Berry, and there I am on stage in between sets, and somehow the keyboard player didn't show up or whatever. And he goes, does anybody play keyboards? And I literally thought for a nanosecond, should I raise my hand? I'm like, what am I, crazy? Yes, I play keyboards. And there I was backstage with Chuck Berry. He's like, could you tune my guitar for me, bro? I'm like, I got goosebumps just talking about it now, because there'd be none of the people that we love and worship, no Beatles, no Stones, without this gentleman.
We all stole from him.
Oh my God, it's just
there's no one who did not learn that solo.
So I'm tuning his big red Gibson, and then it was all in tune, and then he played it, and he's got these beautiful, big, long, bony fingers, and as soon as he played, it sounded out of tune. He goes, hey, try it again, man, tune it better. So I try, and then and I go, hey, bro, what are the keys of some of these songs I'm going to be playing? He goes,
he had no idea.
You know what he said to me? And I'll never forget. He goes,
the key of me.
He goes, oh man, you sound like my bitch Keith. Because, they were like, did you ever see the movie? Was it Hell, Rock and Roll?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh,
he goes, you sound like my bitch Keith. And I could have died right there that he just made that remark to me, like, oh my God, just take me now, Lord. It was just so rock and roll and so freaking cool. I got goosebumps on top of goosebumps just thinking about it, man. Yeah, so, and then there
right, well, you want to know, am I playing like in A or am I playing in B flat?
Yeah, man. And there was a Casio keyboard that was not mine. And there I am on stage. We're jamming away to Johnny Be Good. Dude, these are some of the first songs I ever attempted to play on drums, keys, and guitar. And here I am doing it with the guy who wrote them, the master. And just, and it had a manual key change, pitch thing on it, and I would just immediately listen to the key he was doing, because I had no indication when he, and like some keys were in E flat, so I made it in C, so I could solo, because I can't solo in E flat. right. I'll be honest, man. Sorry.
Now, most of us guitar players who quote unquote double on piano try to stay away from. Although I got it. Yeah. I got to tell you a Black Keys story as a side, because you had expressed an interest in that interview I did with Graham Nash.
Yeah, man.
Well, he told me one time he was performing a concert with David Crosby, and in the middle of the concert, Crosby decided he needed to go smoke a joint or maybe something even more exploratory.
I'm sure it was more exploratory.
And he's like, where are you going, David? What am I going to do? He's like, just play nothing but Black Keys. And did you ever notice that? Like, you could just stay in the black keys and you can do kind of all
it's
these.
Ravel.
It's just, like he said, he jived on that for like 15 minutes while I had his smoke break. So
That's beautiful.
that's about all I know about the black keys.
I love it.
So
there I'm on stage with Chuck, right? And like I'm soloing, and he comes during my solo. He just comes and he hovers over my keys, and this classic sweat is dripping on my fingers from him, from the master. And I'm like, just take me now, Laura. And then he goes back to the middle mic and goes to the crowd. He goes, is he all right? Is he all right? And I was just, and I'm not saying that any ego. I'm just, it's one of those pinch me moments of my musical life that I will never, ever forget. Oh my gosh.
yeah, no, that's the stuff that keeps you going.
Yeah, anyway, man. Wow. So cool.
So it was, so what key was it actually in?
Yeah, no, it was E flat.
Because I've known other people that have played with him.
Yep.
Because he tends to do that.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
he tends
man.
to just like go.
Yeah.
He goes to a market with his guitar.
Yeah,
and
100%.
then he's like,
He has to get paid in cash up front. Did you know that? Yep. 100% up front, cash.
I did a show with Dick Dale one time, and he was the same way.
Really? I saw that
Just
actually.
old school.
On your,
just
yeah.
old school. These guys, hey,
Wow.
if I was Chuck Berry, I would be paid in cash too, and plenty of it.
Opened up a lot of nice doors and stuff. It was cool.
And one of those doors
Mm-hmm.
was the evolution of Mr. Ray.
Yeah, one day my ex was temping at a daycare in North Brunswick, invited me in. She said, temping as a teacher, she said, why don't you bring your guitar? And the kids are just jumping off the wall. So I did. You know, I went in and I started singing my beloved Beatles. I did Yellow Submarine, and then I went to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And the director said, I will pay you to start come. She peered her head in. She goes, I'll start paying you if you want to come in on a part-time basis. And I didn't even think twice about it. I just looked at these little human beings listening and looking at me, and I never experienced that. It was just different. It was just so different and beautiful. And I just started writing songs like, right off the bat, Roy G. Biv, The Colors of the Rainbow, Kayleen the Alien, Blue Skinned Alien comes to Earth, kids make fun of his skin color. He teaches them to be kind to each other. They just poured right out of me. And cassettes were big then, and I sold so many cassettes. You know, I lined up after my shows. It was just... And something happened, you know. It's just like any age, whatever you are, however... Your audience, there was my audience, but I never thought they would be 3, 4, and 5 years old. And I don't care if they're 3 or 83. If somebody is listening to you and they're getting something from it, that's all that matters, man. That's all that matters. And yes, my whole thing with kids is I try to instill into these young, beautiful hearts kindness, staying healthy and active, be creative, start being creative. Those are that's my credo, those things right there, you know, and have good manners.
So you're just trying to put a little pixie dust on them to keep them safe and whole.
Exactly, man. I really am, you know, and I know they grow up.
So it's almost like a spiritual ministry to you.
It's so spiritual, man. I hate to sound so... I can't help it. It's so spiritual, bro. You know, and before they pick up screens, you should see how these kids listen to my words. And I don't mean the great me. I don't know anyone else I could speak for, but they're really listening to my words. And my words are not like, everybody get up, put your hands on your heads. It's not just, I write about, you know, and I write in minor keys too, man. You know, I don't write just all this sunshine stuff. These are minor keys, a lot of my songs. And, you know, because
kids get the blues too.
Yeah, my favorite song of all time is Strawberry Fields Forever, of all time. And think about that. That song is very blue, very, you know, it's not sunshine, and, you know, there's just a mystery to it, you know. There's a longing in that song. You know, and I was just listening on the way, I was watching the video of the Oasis shows that are happening in Cardiff, and, you know, Richard Ashcroft is doing Bittersweet Symphony, which another one of my favorite songs. Why? Another minor key song. It's just, you know, it's just, I don't know, man. I'm always drawn to that.
Speaking of the Beatles, I get the impression that John Lennon had an indelible influence on you.
He truly did, you know. But it really is a duality, though. I mean, you know, I never heard a voice like Paul. You know, even though my voice is closer to Lennon's, of course, it's lower and stuff. But I'm probably revealing some of my age now, but I really don't care. But I did watch Ed Sullivan. When
Age is a matter of mind. If you don't
You're right.
mind, it doesn't matter.
I watched the Beatles and Ed Sullivan.
Wow.
I saw them at my cousin's house, and me and millions of other young people. That was a portal to what I do now. That was literally my first inspiration. And I tell kids that now. I said, somebody's going to inspire you. I said, look around. You see these amazing teachers, kids? Someone like a teacher is going to inspire you. Someone in sports, somebody who does ballet or music, and that was it for me, man.
Now, you seem to be very modest and humble about the success of Mr. Ray, but I don't think a lot of people realize how freaking big you are.
Thanks.
You've had literally millions of plays on Spotify.
Yeah.
Right? Like millions.
Yeah, it's true, and a lot of those are not all originals. And I tell young musicians that do some covers first. Let people know you, like that girl who did "Wise Men Say."
Yeah.
That female artist, she brilliantly did that, and then people are like, "Wow, she's got a great style." And then they sought out her original stuff. And I tell young artists that maybe come out with a cover or two, some of your favorite songs in your style. Kind of reimagine them a little bit, and
Right. Don't necessarily cover them. Interpret them.
exactly
Find your place
Yeah.
in that repertoire.
And that's what I did with like all the Wheels on the Bus songs and all them. I reimagined them. I have like 200 of those public domain classic children's songs out there, family classics, as well as my 85 or 90 or so originals out there. I'm so grateful.
It's interesting how we may start off a pursuit with one particular ambition, but if we leave ourselves open to God and the universe, sometimes the manifestation of that comes out different than what we may have initially pursued. But sometimes we don't get what we want, but we get what's even better.
So true, man.
It seems like you really were blessed with this.
Yeah.
Finding this niche.
Right. And I totally, I'm aligned with that. Sometimes you have to open up your senses, your heart, to a new situation, and just give something a try, whether it be a gig, just a style of music, whatever. Just see what fits, and I don't have to do that anymore, because my Mr. Ray thing is really, it's really the central part of my musical life and beyond music, Yes, I still do grown-up gigs. I have to differentiate, but...
well, we're all still kids.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We're all still figuring out what we're going to do when we grow up.
Yeah.
So that seems amazing to me, though, because... So, you're the Jersey Shore music scene, it's wonderful and it's incredible, but it's also ferocious and competitive.
Mm-hmm.
How did you keep that tender, soft, open-hearted vibe as time went on in your career? And because we live through things, we endure trauma, we endure setbacks, and we're both old enough to have friends who kind of have chips on their shoulder. Like, how do you kind of maintain that cultivation of humility and gratitude that keeps things lubricated so there's new opportunities do have an opportunity to manifest? Right.
Well, that's easier to answer, ever since I started making music for children, because it's just hand in glove. It was just, sometimes we're just put in situations that just feel this is where I should be, just like with relationships and stuff. But to answer your question before that, listen, we all kind of, in the 80s and stuff, there were so many temptations to do, and, I fell prey to some things too, but my music was really my God, and it wasn't a relationship or anything like that. My music was the purity in my life, and I just always had an undeniable sense that, not that I would be famous or rich or anything like that, but that this was my path and nothing was going to get in my way, And when other temptations started feeling like they were knocking at my door too loudly, I just kind of took note of it, and I either wrote more or I just dedicated myself more to my music. So
you were able to metabolize some of those temptations and challenges through your devotion to the muse.
Yeah, I think so. You know. Mm-hmm.
I got to brag here on your behalf a little bit because I'm reading here on your bio, and with this this is astonishing. You were in the Wall Street Journal, Parenting Magazine, the New York Times. You were invited to the United Nations to sing Imagine and give Peace a Chance, as well as your original music.
Mm-hmm. Can I say something about that?
Yeah, please. No.
I just found out. That when I did that,
that's amazing.
Thank you. I just found out that performance. A friend of mine named George Anthony invited me to be a part of that. He's later in the story, but Lee Marwicki.
Oh yeah, from Pony DJ.
Yeah, great guy, friend of mine.
With a book just coming out.
I know. I got to get that.
Let's hope he said nice things about you.
No, he invited me to sing at this, and I think his daughter was in my chorus for that as well. This guy named George Anthony, who invited me to be a part of, to be a delegate of the United Nations through a non-political organization called Pathways to Peace, he told me that one of the Bee Gees was sitting in the audience.
Oh my God!
Wait, not Barry, not Maurice. Who's the other one? Barry, Maurice.
Barry. Oh, now I feel bad.
I know.
Now I feel horrible.
Oh my God!
We're gonna have to edit this out. the other brother,
Barry Gibb, Maurice Gibb.
Why is it not coming? I just saw a documentary on them. It'll come to us.
He's the one who sings like this. Oh. He's the one with the higher voice. He was amazing. Anyway,
they were all amazing. They were amazing.
He was like in the audience with his eyes closed, listening to me, and I was like, "Are you kidding me, man?" I'm like, it was probably someone. Anyway, when he told me that, I recently just found that out, and that gig happened like 2012, 2010, or something like that. I don't know, but the guy I'm telling you about, George Anthony, he invited me to be a delegate so I'm an official delegate of this organization, and I have a pass to go in anytime I want, and I'm going to do some things on behalf of children, around the world, some workshops about music and kind. Thank you, man. I have to get on. I have to think of something. Yeah, it's been a while.
And Billboard magazine, you're a top 10 best-selling kids artist. That's amazing.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thank you.
So how do you go from that?
Yeah.
Next stop on the Ray train. You're touring with Meatloaf.
Well, no, Meatloaf happened in 1998. That's okay. It's okay. Nah, I don't expect, and Mr. Ray I started doing in 94, so I got a call to join Meatloaf.
Okay, so for a while you were on tour and touring musician with this rock icon. Yeah. While cultivating.
Yeah, he was calling me Mr. Ray in the end. He was calling me Mr. Ray. Meatloaf was. He goes, so Kazim Sultan, that phenomenal legendary bass player, who was always with Todd Rundgren playing bass, and he's on Bat Out of Hell at the age of 21 or 2 playing bass. Yeah, I mean, so I took his place being a utility guy in Meatloaf, keyboards, guitar, backing vocals, and he went to MD, musical director, and back to bass. Right. Mm-hmm.
So the guy that you, that had to be somewhat intimidating. So this epic guy who you're replacing is still in the band.
I know.
He's just chilling on bass while he's scrutinizing over you.
Yeah, man. It was, and listen, it was just like boot camp. It was just amazing. I mean, I felt I was the least equipped musician in that band. Oh my gosh, were these cats amazing, and Meatloaf's daughter was in it. And
the repertoire, Jim Steinman, I mean...
Forget about it, yeah. It was like... It was really...
it's like taking a master class.
Yeah, I had to woodshed big time, man, It was tremendous. I learned so much. I got to see so much, mainly Europe, a lot of America, but shows like David Letterman. I mean, dude, I'm the biggest Beatles fanatic, and there we were on the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Wow!
Oh my gosh!
And you're not just there; you're playing.
Yeah, I'm on the same stage.
You got a freaking guitar in your hand,
right? And then we went in the dressing room, and all the staff is like, everything you see, all these pictures, the walls are untouched since the Beatles days, and I was just like, oh my gosh! It was like going to Mecca. It was just like, that was tremendous. Jay Leno. It was an amazing experience. Truly.
What do you recall about Meatloaf?
Yeah,
that you could share with people?
he was such a selfless person. Usually people like that, megastars, take a separate tour bus than the band, the backing band. Not him, man. His bunk was right across from mine, all touring all across Europe and America. He was on the same bus, and he would not leave. People were lined up at the bus for autographs. He would not leave until every autograph was signed, And one day he saw me really nervous, and he goes, Ray, it's okay to be nervous, bro. It's what he told me. He goes, Ray, it's okay. He goes, once you stop being nervous, you start mailing in your performance. You stop caring. And I was like, wow, thank you for saying that. You know what I mean? It's like, you could be nervous. Don't screw up, but, it's okay to be nervous before you go on because, I wasn't used to these huge. I'm talking Wembley Arena, all these big places.
Right, and you're the utility guy,
Yeah,
so when you have to play something in particular, you have to play something in particular the way it is.
100%. Yeah, there's no, embellishing the part.
And when you're going back and forth between keys and guitar, it's not like you're sitting there for the set and the guitar warms up and you're just
Exactly.
You got to be like, all right, I got to be on this, got to be on. I mean, they're totally different interfaces.
Yeah, dude, there were songs where there was a tech handing me acoustic and electric within the same song and playing keyboards too. Just it was like, woo. I think back, how did I do that? But you just rise to the occasion. You just have to, you got to hit it out of the park, or at least get a single. You're, yeah.
Here's another question for you. So you say you started off on drums.
Yeah.
You've been the Swiss Army knife for a major rock icon. But you're also a poignant singer-songwriter that's done the, singing solo with an acoustic piano or guitar. So you've done every job in rock and roll. Which one what's your sweet spot? What's pure fun?
I mean, I just love writing, I don't care if it's for children or people our age, I mean, just writing, creating. There's nothing like it. Driving home late, coming home somewhere, and I'm just blurting out melodies and hooks, and there's something sacred about that. It's very spiritual, and of course singing too when you're in front of an audience and something just clicks. But for me, writing, again, I don't care if it's for a 3-year-old because I put that much effort into. I don't care how old the human is. You know?
Actually, I would argue that writing for children is more important.
Yeah,
because you're going to be a primary influence on. I remember reading Horton the Elephant as a kid. I could quote it. If you're the first influence on a sentient being, that's a big important impact.
Dude, last week I played a Milltown, Mill, Milltown, their 4th of July, and this woman came up to me. She goes, I was in the first group of kids at this daycare, the first daycare I told you I performed at. I was in that audience, and here are my 2 kids now, and I just wanted to say thank you. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And I posted that on my Mr. Ray Music presence on Facebook, and I cannot tell you the kids and the outpouring that were in that group and, that listened to me, just what you're saying, and parents just reflecting on those times. And yeah, for all intents and purposes, I don't even remember who my first musician was that I listened to. Do you? I can't even remember.
Yeah. I remember the first thing, well, I can only remember one of my earliest memories of taking note of music was at the Acme in Point Pleasant Beach as a little kid, and they had those old school supermarket ceiling speakers. They were mono, but they had big magnets. They had a really good sound.
Yeah, man.
Like mono, but thick. And it was the first time I heard "I Want to Hold Your Hand."
Oh,
and
wow.
the opening riff.
Nice.
There's something about the grit in that opening riff that just a little bit of overamped, preamp, compressed. I don't know. I didn't know what it was, obviously, as a child, but I was just like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
I can remember when I was living in Point Pleasant Beach as a kid. I remember a guy coming up in an old El Camino, and he had an 8-track playing some early Springsteen stuff. I remember that. I remember riding my Huffy up to the boardwalk, and the frosted door would open and the air-conditioned smoke and stale beer aroma would spill out onto the boardwalk, and you could hear that chimey Fender twang. And I just was like, how do I get in there?
Wow, dude, you got a lot of cool memories.
I was like, how do I get in there? How do I get in there?
Yeah, how do I get in there?
like you'd think as a child I'd be repulsed by the smell of nicotine and beer and sweat and suntan oil. I was like, no, how do I get in on that? Like, what's going on, you know?
That's so cool.
But from a more practical perspective, as a live stage musician, what do you enjoy? Like, you've clearly done all the jobs. What do you find... because I've been a utility guy too, and I've played drums, and I've done things for different... What's the hardest job and what's the funnest job?
I mean, Meatloaf was the toughest job, you know. It was just really tough. I mean, I would just... I had a lot of self-doubt, you know. And when I left, I mean, I told him, I said, I called him Meat, you know, I think I want to go back to the kids' music full-time, you know. I want to go back to that. I really miss that. And, you know, I wanted to start having a family, too. And I didn't want to be on the road, be a dad on the road. I just didn't want to do that, you know. And he's like, Mr. Ray, anytime you want to come back, that's what he said. Anytime you want to come back, the door is always open for you. And I thought that was so kind of him to say that. Even if it was obligatory, it's just really kind. He didn't have to say that. And I never had any desire to come back. And I don't mean that in a mean way or anything, but yeah. But
do you find keyboards hardest thing to play, or do you find it hardest
specifically
to be a lead singer, leading a group like you do?
No, I'd say maybe keyboards. You know, I mean, I'm more like a studio guy with keyboards and lead guitar. I'm more of a studio lead guitar player. I like to work on parts,
right?
You know, definitive parts. Sorry.
Right.
As opposed to on stage. Oh my God, no. I don't think I've ever done that. I'm a studio lead guitar guy, you know, for my stuff. No one's ever hired me to play lead guitar and anything. Is FYI, you know. But and it's fine. But yeah.
But you're like a composer approach for
exactly.
So you're more interested in melodic themes.
Yeah,
you want a little
feel. The feel's of course prevalent, but yeah, exactly. Yes.
So what are your, in addition to your ongoing activities as Mr. Ray, you've got a Bowie tribute?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a celebration because and Bookers they've turned us down because I don't dress like him. I don't wear the orange or red wig, whatever, and I don't want to do that. We have, you know, amazing people, Reagan Richards, Leon Holmes in the band, and I spread the lead vocal love, so it's more like a theatrical celebration, you know? And I love that. We all... Arna went, you know, Ralph Natara. We all sing. There's 5 of us. I sing a little more than everybody, but yeah, it's just so much more fun that way for us. There are bands that just do that, you know, the tribute thing. That's great, but You
didn't want it to be a paint by numbers thing. You wanted it to be a heartjealth interpretation of the repertoire and pay homage more than
right. Exactly. And again, no, I'm not putting down anybody who does that, but it's just I'm not a real tribute guy. For me, I'm just saying, you know, the Beatles.
Listen, anyway, anybody can survive economically as a musician. Got to give them all the credit in the world, but it's just not you're not into a paint by numbers approach.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
So clearly, the Beatles are a tremendous influence.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's
clearly Bowie is. What are some of your other influences?
I mean, crossing genres.
Springsteen.
My first concert in my life was a guy named Buddy Rich.
Oh, the drummer.
The
guy who could do a single stroke roll with his left
ding, 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 ding. You got it, bro. That was my first concert. It was at the Meadowbrook in Cedar Grove. My mom and dad brought me, and because I was so into drums, and I just blew my ears out and blew my brains out. And that was it. That really started me on, like, you know, I saw the rapport he had with the audience, and that to answer your question before about, you know, live playing and stuff.
He was also a genuine freak of nature.
Oh my God, just totally, man.
So you're a young drummer and you listen to Rush and you hear Neil Peart and you're like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But somewhere intellectually you can at least comprehend what he's doing.
Right.
With Buddy Rich, it was like,
God.
He kind of like broke the space-time.
He did.
He just did things where you're like, how how is this like middle-aged guy smoking a cigarette?
Yeah, right. It's
Doing
true.
all that with one hand.
And he was a wise ass too. He was like, yeah, it's really great. It's really great to be here. He goes, where the fuck am I? You know, I remember him saying that. I was like 7 or something, or 8 years old. You know, and he was just a wise ass, but it just went. It just worked, and then you know, remember Johnny Carson? Did you ever watch that when he was do a dueling drummer with Ed Shaughnessy, the house drummer, and that was great. So. Yeah, you know, I mean, I grew up in Ringo and Charlie Watts, of course, and then, you know, then Keith Moon.
Now, Charlie Watts,
yeah,
probably antithetical to Buddy Rich.
I know.
Pocket, simple, but also, who else could have done that job?
Exactly. He played for the song, yeah. As did Ringo.
Yes.
You know, so, and then like Keith
By
Moon
the
came.
way,
Yeah.
I heard one of your covers of Pete Townshend's song earlier today. It was fantastic. It was in one of your promo reels.
Oh, yeah.
And you're covering a Who tune. Do you have any thoughts to weigh in on the current Zach Starkey controversy in his firing?
I just think, you know, Roger Daltrey's the core of this, isn't he? I think
it would seem so.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in his mind these days, you know, but he just seems cranky and, you know, putting Zach through the mill, and you know, you're fired. No, you're back. You're fired, and then Pete Townsend has to voice his opinion. You know, sticking up for Roger, and then apologizing for Roger, and it's just such a mess. You know.
Hopefully, they can all kiss and make up and just have one more really good show and let it go nice.
Yeah, that's truly my first big concert. They performed Quadrophenia.
Oh wow!
At Madison Square Garden. I'll never forget that. You know, and yeah, Keith Moon had goldfish in his floor tom-toms because I had binoculars. Goldfish in his floor toms.
So you actually saw Keith Moon play?
Oh yeah, bro. It was amazing. Yeah. Wow. It was amazing. They did almost all of Quadrophenia. Yeah. Yeah.
There's something about young drummers something about teenage hormones and youth and that rigorous athletic fierceness to that type of drumming, which is so intrinsic to authentic rock and roll.
Yeah, and it's like there was no, like, you know...
It's almost like if a 1-year-old Labrador Retriever could play drums.
Right.
Because there's this reckless abandon to it.
Yeah, right. And the time signature was kind of like up and down, and it was just so rogue and so rock and roll. That's what rock and roll was about, you know? It wasn't all auto-tuned, and look, we all use it here and there. It's fine, you know, but it wasn't overdone, man. It was just, of course, that stuff wasn't invented yet, but I mean, I don't know, the timing, it was just so...
Do you think music might have been better back then when we had to work harder for good take?
I think so. 100%. 100%. I have a home studio, you know, and I find myself sometimes overly tweaking stuff. I'm like, stop, Ray, stop. I talk to myself, stop. You're losing the feel, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you listen to contemporary stuff. Like, I just started, my fiance's friend had a suggestion for me, because, you know, I do cover gigs, and you know, most of them are by dead guys at this point, right? Like... Well, tell me if you agree with this theory, because I was discussing this with my fiancée Moira the other day. It's like, when we were growing up, we all had a collective music experience. Like, whether we liked everything on American Top 40 or not, most of us were listening to the same repertoire.
Yeah.
Most of us, we'd go to social events, we'd go to Sweet 16s, we'd go to weddings, receptions, and we'd hear Shout, and we'd hear Twist and Shout. There was the standards. And then I think with the emergence of the iPod in the 2000s, like, what was great about it is that everyone could go into their own esoteric, eclectic, musical journey of self-discovery. And that's wonderful, but it did come to at the expense of, because I don't think kids now are listening to the same. It's like we all listen to the top 40 radio, right. And whether you might have hated what you were hearing,
yeah.
But everybody like knew what we were all kind of on the same page with what was hot and what was like. We all kind of. I don't feel like that's. It's harder now to
more categorized and just like
like people's
divided.
Tastes are so far across the
so true
the map now.
Yeah, back then we all loved Motown and British music. We all listened to this, you know, that and American music, and That's a good point.
Like it doesn't seem to be like a new generation of
Yeah.
standards.
Right.
And also, when you go out there as a solo acoustic performer, like
up until Coldplay and Oasis, though, right? It's kind of past that, the Dave Matthews, right? But beyond that,
well, like I just had someone request Watermelon Sugar High, right? So I'm 57 years old, and I'm thinking, how the hell do I convincingly take an acoustic guitar and do a version of this, pop? And I did, thankfully, and I think it's a pretty cool version. But
so catchy.
But how do you take something that's been auto-tuned, looped, crisp, state-of-the-art digital production? Well, the thing is, it is catchy, and it is a good melody, and it is clever, and there's so actually you can break. The song does stand on its own. When we were young, songs, they were recorded in studios, but it was real guitars and it was real keyboards, and you could replicate that.
Sure.
And I find with a lot of music now, if you take away the digital magic, like to me, a good song, the lyrics, the melody, and the harmonic structure on an acoustic guitar or piano, like it has to pass that test.
Yeah.
You can do all the cool, fun stuff, do whatever you want, but if it doesn't, if someone can't sing it alone on a regular guitar or piano, I'm not interested.
Yeah,
And I've noticed when I've tried to deconstruct some of the hits, like when you take away all the digital gimmickry, it's like there's not a song here.
Yeah, it's all part of the production, and and like, listen, people of our age and stuff say, all music sucks today, and like, look, we lived through such an amazing time of music, and we should just be lucky, and nothing stays the same, man.
No.
But I will tell you that I am just so pissed at just how these mega corporations like Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple just do not pay we writers and artists. It's just that's inexcusable, and that has to change. I don't know how it's going to or when it's going to change, but
Well, I think of someone like you who's had over 1 million plays on Spotify. Like, money should not be an issue for you ever, right? It's like, back in the early 1900s, we had these things called Nickelodeons. And even back in over 111 years ago, it cost you a nickel to engage in state-of-the-art media entertainment.
Right.
How come over 100 years later, we don't even get whatever the financial equivalent of that is now? Because I don't know about you, but I remember in the early 2000s when iTunes first came out, before the streaming models came in, I get like 59 cents from my CD Baby downloads.
Right, but it's subscription basis now. That's what kills it. It's subscription. You don't even like MP3.com. It was like $1.99 a song.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
It's like
every once in a while you'd like hit like a 10,000 one, and you get like a little bump, and you get the car fixed. Like I remember. I wasn't making huge money, but it's like, oh yeah, we can afford to buy the kids this or that or whatever. But you were getting something for your effort.
I know.
And that was 20 years ago. And now it's worse for the guys that have done all the heavy lifting.
Again, I'm not trying to sound like I'm not in this for the money. I make a living.
You have a right to survive as much as anyone else.
My Mr. Ray CDs, I sold them for $15 a pop after my shows. Just like, and I'd sign them. And there was just something cool about that, too. Just autographing a physical piece of media. And the kids can take it. And
it's tangible.
Yeah, it's tangible. Do I miss the money? Of course. But just like you say, there's something tangible there. You'd hold it, and don't even get me started with just like posters and stuff and albums and vinyl, and that was such a nice time. The Beatles like White Album with that huge poster, and oh my gosh, that was, you just like
Sergeant Pepper with the cutout mask and the mustache.
So much fun. But oh well, that's okay. We lived through it, and we had great times with that experience.
Well, in a way, it seems like we've gone full circle because we're back to the era of the troubadour.
Right.
If you carry that guitar and that gear into that bar or that restaurant or that park or wherever, it still comes down to,
That's another thing I tell, new musicians, you have to gig. You have to gig, You're not going to make money right off the bat on these streaming services. You have to gig, and I don't know. It's so weird, though. You see like these clubs in Manhattan, like Arlene Grocery and all these places, and they're filled with tribute bands. It's so weird. I'm not putting them down because I have a Bowie celebration band, but
Right.
it's just like so strange to see that.
It's
like,
disheartening.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this generation has fertile ground to plant themselves. Like there is no ecosystem for original music the way there used to be.
Well put.
You know, Asbury Park,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At its worst, it was at its best for original music in a way.
Yeah.
You know, 7 nights a week, if nothing else was going on, there was an open mic going on somewhere, you know, and it was a long journey from the Tuesday open mic to headline in the Stone Pony. But there was an ecosystem where if you did the work and you did the hustle, and I mean, I think talent is, you know, you have to be at a certain level of talent. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the persistence, the resilience, when you keep going through, you know, it's not all peaks. There's valleys you got to walk through too.
Oh man, truly.
And to keep going when things are not at a high,
right?
You know, it's because, you know, like, get these pendulum swings. But if you really like, I don't know, like, does School of Rock showcase event really give kids the same character development as unloading at 2:00 in the morning and splitting a $50 bill and like, you know, like, like we had more opportunity, but we had to do physical work to get whatever we got. There was no, there wasn't any cheat. There was no cheat codes.
Right.
There wasn't a YouTube viral video. There, like, you know, you had, if you were playing somewhere, you had to promote it. You know, you had to do flyers.
Yeah, it's just a different time. It just really is, you know, and there are more pop stars now than bands, you know, and it's just the reality. I don't know why or if that'll change, but it just seems right. They're more like just solo pop stars than like, when's the latest band? I mean, yeah, it's just been a while. And look, they're out there. Don't get me wrong. If I see more and more TikToks now of just young bands, and you know they hearken to the past.
And to be fair, these social media platforms do level the playing field,
right?
And there's something great about that.
Sure,
you know, but yeah, the game has certainly changed.
Like, I'm starting a songwriting class for first and second graders. It's going to be up in Short Hills in the fall. And look, these kids, I don't expect them to come up with melodies, and you know, I'll do all that. Or we may even do like public domain stuff, and they can just say, let's write about your favorite pet or your favorite family member or something like that. But I just want to start that seed of creativity with these kids. And at the end of the 6, 7, 8 week session, you know, we'll do a show for their families. You see. But I'm going to introduce instruments to them, but it is going to be like a songwriting thing with Mr. Ray type of thing, you know, and I'm really excited about it.
We know that is really interesting because if you think about it, a lot of some of the great songwriters, some of that stuff unfortunately got inspired and in reaction to some type of core wound trauma. So it'd be interesting to see what a generation of music would be from children where the music resulted from positive nurturing experience rather than a reactionary ego wound. Because if you think about some of the biggest rock stars in the world, I mean, like, is it their musical talent, or is that they're a codependent spectacle with the world?
Right.
Because they've got this wound and they just got to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a whole other, truly. I'm with you there. Yeah, sure.
So I find that interesting. It'd be interesting to see.
Music is therapy, it's catharsis, and it's a window, you know, into hopefully healing, you know. It has been for me, different aspects of my life.
Oh, I wouldn't be alive if I didn't have.
I know, man.
Be able to metabolize my pain with music.
And writing about it, that's like, wow, what catharsis is that? It's not the cure-all, but it's, oh my gosh, it's your own private sonic therapy session, you know, and I have this thing with kids. I said, let's clap for music. It's magic, you know. Don't clap for me. Let's clap for music, kids, you know, and it truly is magic, you know.
Live music, I think, in particular, when it's really flowing and it's people are gelling, it is the closest thing to, well, I don't know, recorded music. Music is the closest thing to magic that we really have.
Right. Like sometimes I walk into these rooms and the kids they're afraid of me. You know, this guy's got black hair. He's dressed in black.
You're
you
like
know?
a wizard.
Yeah. Who's And within 2-3 songs, not me, something about the language of music. They're clapping their hands, they're smiling, and at the end they're hugging me. It's just such a, oh my gosh.
So you think of yourself as a portal and a conduit for
Exactly.
a higher thing working through you.
I like that.
You don't
Yes.
think of yourself as that thing. You think
No
of
way,
yourself
man.
as being
No way.
you're taking your human vessel and
Yes.
you're bringing something through you that's coming from a higher level
You are
source.
very succinct. You have a good way with words. Yes. You should do some writing. I know you do. Like, yeah, man. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So you have the writing class coming in the fall. Well,
Yeah.
you've had an amazing journey as a musician and a writer and an
Thank you.
artist. What are some of your remaining dreams?
I'm working on, this is the first time I've put this out there, I'm working on a theatrical vehicle, a project. I can't talk about it yet too much, but yeah, I'm really excited about that. In one of my songs, the one it was called, like I think I mentioned, Kelly and the Alien, is a touring musical now, and small theaters and schools with pushcart players out of Verona, New Jersey.
That's amazing.
Thank you. It's a cast of millennials.
That has to
and-
be such an incredibly rewarding experience.
Oh my gosh, dude! I cannot tell you what it is to sit in the audience and watch them. And literally every 5 seconds, I want to go like, no, wait. The note should be like, or well, let's try something else. But I have to sit there, and it's so different. Have you ever experienced anyone else doing one of your songs?
Yes.
Really? Tell me.
Well, I was in Maine one night, and I was looking for one of my own songs, and I found a kid in Colombia, in Central America, covering I was in a band called Phantom's Opera that had a little bit of success.
Wait, the Phantom's Opera? There
Not
was a
the band Phantom, not the play. The band.
no Phantom's Opera.
Yeah, played like the Fountain Casino and all that whole scene and all. They played the Pony.
Wasn't there a
Latte.
guy who passed away?
Joe
Jack?
Fogg. Well,
Yeah.
Jack Young died too. Jack.
Wait,
Jack
so
was,
you were in that?
Yes.
An incarnation of that, or?
yes.
Oh my gosh, dude! I never knew that.
Yeah. We that band actually started in 1969.
Yes.
Jack Young was the founder. He was the keyboard player, writer. Him and Alec John Such from Bon Jovi started that band.
Yes.
Tico was in that band.
Okay.
And as you probably were playing the Pony at the same time. In fact, I could see old Aquarian ads in my head of Phantom's Opera and Cats on Smooth. So,
Right.
and back then, those guys were making like $1,000 a week cash as musicians. So Anyway, long story short, I'm a kid in Saraville. Graduated from Saraville High School in '86, the fall of when Slippery When Wet came out, and obviously that was a slightly big album. In fact, we're only a few doors down from Century Sound, where they did the demo for all that.
Oh yeah.
And Trax East is on the other side of the bridge.
I recorded there. Great people. Steve.
Probably with Plinky Giglio and
Yeah.
all, Steve Evitz, and Eric Rachel, all those guys. Yeah.
That's it. Eric Rachel. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So anyway,
By the way, Plinky co-produced my first 3 Mr. Ray records. Did you know that? Yeah.
no,
Plinky Julio. Yeah.
he was Glenn's brother-in-law at the time.
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful talent.
Yeah, he worked on the first Phantom's Opera record too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, Phantom's Opera, they lost Alec and Tico to Bon Jovi, and then they were like, hey, maybe we should start getting into this original thing. At the time, Gemini was recording at the Guitar Player's studio in Ford's, and they liked my voice, and they're like, hey, how would you like to do this? Long story short, we took members of that band and Gemini, and we created a new version of Phantom's Opera. We recorded a record at Trax East. We opened up for Southside Johnny at the Arts Center and played Birch Hill and Stone Pony and all the pit stops of the era.
You played the Garden State Arts Center when it was called Garden State Arts Center?
Yes.
Oh, I never played there. Good for you, man.
Yeah, opening up for Southside.
Nice.
He hazed me that night.
What?
He hazed me.
What do you mean?
So I'm backstage, and he walks into the dressing room
Right.
with a fifth of Jack Daniels. He's like, so, you're going to open up for Southside Johnny tonight? And I'm like, yes, sir. It's like, we're going to have a drink at Southside Johnny? It's like, yes, sir. And he took that fifth of JD with 2 red Solo cups, and he poured half and half. So what am I going to do? I know I didn't want to drink it. You know, I'm like 20-something years old.
Right.
Southside Johnny gives you a glass of fucking Jack Daniels, and you're opening for him at the Art Center.
Right.
You're going to drink it. So I did. I think I still managed to perform okay, but I was like, damn. It was like I felt like I was part of a hazing ritual. But
I get it.
So yeah, anyway, I forgot what we got sidetracked.
No, somebody singing one of his songs that you,
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
wrote.
yeah. So
That's
he was singing this, and it was just like, yeah, that's amazing. Like, it's not always the big things, right? It's like, when it's just as rewarding when you. I don't know about you, but every time I record something, sometimes I listen back now at stuff I thought was great, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so cringy. But the thing is, they're all their own little life forms, these little creations, and you don't know who they're really made for. And we can only hope that they fly to the eardrums that they're going to be of highest benefit to.
Yeah, man.
So when you see something kind of eclectic or esoteric and see some little nugget of your soul reaching someone somewhere else in a tangible, positive way,
right?
I find that to be the most fulfilling experience. It
truly is.
And in a way, when you haven't had like the success of a Springsteen or a Bon Jovi, I don't even know how do you even handle that?
Yeah.
Because it's enough to have a couple hundred people in your life and be ethical and kind and there and supportive. It's like, I can't even comprehend what it must be like to have a level of success where you just kind of have to, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you've seen it up close.
Yeah, you just I guess you get used to the territory. But yeah, for sure, man, I would never want to be that famous. Honest, I really wouldn't, you know. But God bless him, you know. I guess over time you just acclimate yourself, but it must be a pain in the butt sometimes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
People following you and just, I mean, I see it. Sometimes I'm in a store, I go, Mr. Ray?
Right.
No, it's adorable. It's adorable.
Yeah, but you're not always, you don't always feel like being Mr. Ray. You're like, you might not have the best day and you just want to get what you need.
I know, but just when a kid says it's...
I'm sure it's immediately disarming.
You got it. It's beautiful. No, it's beautiful though. But yeah, but I'm just joking. But yeah, I mean, just to be photographed on vacation, I see now people, oh my gosh, I just, yuck. But...
So we got the theatrical aspiration going on.
Yeah, no, that's...
And there any upcoming gigs for your adult fans?
We have the Wonder Bar on August 8th on a Friday night with the Bowie and Beyond celebration. Awesome. Yeah, it's a fun place. It's really a good place to play. You know, it's just very conducive to a high energy performance. Summertime too, so yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah. That's about it, you know, as far as, and I'm working on something for a Mr. Ray thing, for a TV thing. We'll see what happens. I
didn't really highlight that, but you've had success in that arena as well, right? Like licensing and for film and TV. And
yeah, Reagan and I from the Bowie thing, we did...
Reagan Richards from...
Yeah, Reagan Richards from... her Williams honor thing with Gordon Brown and my Bowie thing. We did a different drum by Mike Nesmith from the Monkees. That song Linda Ronstadt did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we did it for a Netflix movie. It was a top 10 movie last year, I think it was, called The Tutor, Tutor, starring one of the actors from Stranger Things, Noah Schnapp. He was in it, and you could. We redid the song in my home studio. She did a great job singing it. And I played all the instruments, stuff like that. And so that's actually leaving Netflix on July 18th, folks. So you can catch it still. No, I'm not making royalties from it. I'm not mentioning it now. I'm not one of those, pick a car, any car. I'll tell you, used car salesman. I'm just saying, it's a really cool movie. It's a thriller. The Tutor, Tutor. Yeah.
That's a cool song. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that he wrote it, or
I didn't know. I didn't know the background.
He wrote that.
I know the original hit version of it. I had no idea the origins.
Yeah, he wrote that. Mike Nesmith. Yeah, it's so pretty crazy, you know.
Wow, man.
But where'd you grow up?
Well, some argue I haven't grown up yet, but I was born in Point Pleasant. My parents split up young, so I spent a lot of time down in La Valette. But I moved around a lot as a kid, but when I got to Saraville, where we are now, In 5th grade, I stayed through high school. And so I had my teen years here in the Ville. And an amazing place to be an aspiring young musician because, like, you know, I just was a couple months out of high school when, like, Slippery When Wet was the biggest album in the world. And, like, this nondescript industrial factory town had legions of international Bon Jovi fans, like, just looking for him, you know.
And there was a lot of work. Union Jack, right? Wasn't that a nightclub here?
South River, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
South River.
You're less than a mile away from
Yeah,
it.
yeah. We played there a lot, Cats, yeah.
Oh, the Union Jack was cool.
Yeah, right.
And then it was Cocktails. For
okay.
But yeah, the Union Jack.
Oh, that rings a bell, yeah.
That was its glory days.
Yeah.
They had a lot of touring acts go through there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like, you remember when the Aquarian was, like, as thick as a telephone book?
Sure.
And there was, like, all these clubs. Now, you probably weren't going to get paid. You might have to, like, play for a case of Bud on a Tuesday night, but eventually you're going to get somewhere where you're getting paid on a Friday night. Like, if you know, like, the ecosystem existed.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I don't know if this. I notice now a lot of my gigs. There's one good thing, one shift in society that I'm noticing as a person who does a lot of that kind of stuff. There's not a lot of young drinkers. Kids are not coming out to bars the way they used to. It's mostly older folks still.
Yeah,
still holding
that's a
it
good
down.
point. Yeah,
and I mean that's as a old alley cat singing for a living. It's not so great, but I'm glad to see that there's a reduced. I'm glad younger people are finding other things to do besides getting wasted. It's kind of.
Yeah,
I think that's good. Maybe, you know, like. Our generation tends to be very critical of the younger generations, but I got to give them credit. They're not out doing stupid shit the way my generation was.
Gee, I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. No, not at all.
I grew up in West Orange. You know what that is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good town to grow up in, you know. We had South Mountain Arena right there, right next to Turtleback Zoo. And I remember just walking in there and Sly and the Family Stone were setting up for a gig there.
Oh, my God.
Just like they had amazing people there. If you're out there, folks, just Google some of the artists that played there in little old West Orange and South Mountain Arena. I forget what it's called.
So you got
now.
to hear Sly and the Family Stone at the...
No, I didn't get to hear them. I was just like... I did play there. We were at the end of the ice, me and a teenage band I was in. These people were like, just like plowing into us, or like, you know, they turned to the right or left, and like all the ice shavings would go in on our instruments. We'd be like, get out of here, you know. But we were like 14. But that was one of my first gigs. I was drummer, lead singer.
Oh,
I was like Don Henley type of guy, or like.
Those you know those initial catalyst gigs they had higher highs than some of the more accomplished professional things.
Right.
That there's something about those early gateway. I remember at my prom, the band took a break and they let us borrow their instruments, and we did an impromptu set at the prom. You know, and it's like there's something about early rock and roll experiences as a teenager that. It's almost like you chase it the rest. It's not almost. You chase it the rest.
Yeah,
of the
man. Yeah, you're so right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this feels like a pretty good place to conclude this.
Thank you.
This interview, and I'd love to have you back sometime when you're ready to talk about your latest projects. Mm-hmm. I can't thank you enough for your time, Ray. It's been wonderful getting to know you better.
Likewise.
You're a person who's always been kind of on the periphery of my musical radar. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, it's interesting how we all kind of like we're all caught in our own game trying to survive and do our hustle to keep things going, but there's people you notice over the years like, all right, that guy's still going, so I'm going to keep going. Yeah. So thank you for inspiring me to keep maintaining my own efforts. I think we all strengthen each other when we
100%.
When we see these names we've seen for a while. And it's like, all right, that guy's still going. I'm going to keep going too.
Yeah, man. No, thanks. You're really easy to talk with, and you made it really fun and nice. Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors, and I thank you for all your service to humanity through your gift of music.
You're sweet. That's so kind of you to say. Thank you. You too, Coley.
All right, folks. There you have it. Take care.